Hi guys, welcome back to ModCons. Thank you so much for tuning in. Guess what? Today we have an amazing guest. Michael Winstanley is joining us. It's such a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
So Michael was born and bred in Ashton. He has been a councillor in Wigan Council for 16 years, led the Conservative group in opposition to the Labour-controlled council, and has been a mayor of the Borough of Wigan, something Laura will know about being a mayor.
Everyone needs a good deputy.
Yeah. He now serves at the highest level of the Conservative Voluntary Party as president of the National Convention, and we are thrilled to have him with us today on ModCons. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and thank you for inviting me along.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. So Michael, you are president of the National Convention. Could you tell us a bit more about what that is and what you do?
Okay, so in terms of the Voluntary Party, we have a number of elected people from what we call the National Convention, which is made up of constituency chairmen, areas and regions. And then we have 5 volunteers that therefore represents the National Convention on the board of the party. Right. We've got chairman of the convention, which is Julian Ellicott. We've got 3 vice presidents of the party. And this year it's been my honour to be president of the convention, but also thank you, but also that also makes you chairman of the conference. So last year, in October last year, I chaired the party conference in Birmingham, which was a great experience and really enjoyed it.
It was a good conference.
It was a really good conference, even though we were kind of feeling a bit down, a bit blue. It was very upbeat.
Everyone was
surprisingly so.
And I think that's the important bit about it, because when we was planning the conference, one of the things that we had to try and do was, how do you have that first conference when you're in opposition and you've just come off that historic defeat as well. So framing it around that leadership contest was really important, and I actually thought that we had a really good time in Birmingham. All the candidates really got involved with that, and I think that we came away there with a spring in our step and onwards and upwards.
Yeah, so true. I always say to Laura, like, the media was so confused why we were all so happy.
It's so true.
So the National Convention says it exists to ensure that members and activists retain a voice in how our country is run, how we are represented in Parliament, and how the national narrative develops. There's lots of talk about this, but what do you think that national narrative or message should be?
I think Kemi's obviously right to take a step back. Obviously, she was elected in sort of like November time as leader, and she always said as part of that campaign that it wasn't about developing policy straight away. It was to understand why we lost that general election so heavily, and now we're looking at developing those policies, but also making sure that as a Conservative party, we're providing the principled opposition to the Labour Party today, which is what they're doing every single day in Parliament and out there on the media airwaves as well, but then developing that policy as we move towards the next general election, and making sure we get back, for me, getting back to our Conservative roots and what about being a Conservative and what we actually believe in, because then we can frame our policies on that.
Totally. And we've seen already, like, our policies are slowly coming together, things like the farming tax, the fact that we're supporting farmers and the Labour Party aren't. So we're seeing a few little nuggets of what the future might look like.
Absolutely, and I think that's important, because obviously from day to day things change, so you've got to make sure that your fleet of foot ready to respond to that, and then just base your policies and work out what we do from there, because sometimes you can't commit to a policy 5 years out, because the whole world will look like a different place. Only 3 weeks ago, everything sort of like was up in the air after President Zelensky went to see President Trump, and then the whole narrative changed around that. So great old saying, a week's a long time in politics.
It really is.
We've seen that over the last 2 weeks.
Sometimes an evening is.
It's exhausting.
So going back to kind of the origins of the National Convention, it kind of launched around the time of the 1867 Second Reform Act.
Yes,
in a different guise.
In a different guise.
It's kind of when Benjamin Disraeli gave the working man the vote, and it was really important because it kind of liberated democratically the working classes and middle classes. So I feel like that gives us the right to say that we are the party of the working man. Do you think that message gets communicated?
It really annoys me when the left claim that they're the progressives. They're not the progressives. We are the progressive party. We are the radicals. We are the people that gave the working man a vote. We then moved on to giving women the votes. You know, we gave people an opportunity to buy their own council houses. We believe in low taxation. Those are the things that actually really matter to the ordinary working man and woman across the country. And it annoys me when the left and the Labour Party claim that mantle, because they're not. That's our ground, and we need to be more and more, you know, confident in our assertion about that.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, I do. I got very excited.
We're not being painted into a corner. No, we're out there. We're going to be fighting for every single vote. The Labour Party have never ever stood up for the working man across this country. We've always looked to hold them down, and every single Labour government has left more people out of work than when they came in. So-called Labour Party, absolute joke.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we were talking to David Starkey about this, and he was saying that the Labour Party are actually the party of the bureaucratic class. They are not the party of the working man. And I think we're seeing that in the policies that they've been enacting in the last, well, since that crazy budget.
Without any shadow of a doubt.
So you stood as a candidate in Lee and Atherton for the general election after MP James Grundy, who historically won that seat in 2019. He stood down because he said, you know, there was increasing aggression and violence towards MPs. Do you think the climate has cooled since then? And, you know, what can be done apart from, you know, saying we want MPs to be safe? What can we actually do about it?
I think it's a very challenging situation, and I think this is always going to be here, unfortunately, now, because of the way that we've got social media and the various platforms. It gives people an opportunity to be able to just come out with statements and make threats that perhaps they would have been more difficult for them to do before, because it would have been in a more threatening sort of like way. Whereas now they can hide behind an anonymous account and just post a load of things out there, organise pile-ons and things like that. I think it's really important that we look at how we protect our politicians, because at the end of the day, regardless of which party you're from, if you've put yourself forward and you're standing for election and you've been elected to office, that people don't have the right to you know, attack you physically and all that kind of stuff. And there's a more fundamental issue as well, and some of the things that I see, particularly towards female MPs as well. And, you know, we all of us want a wider and more diverse group of people getting involved in politics. That just doesn't mean about colour, race, religion. It means about backgrounds as well. And that's one of the things I'm really passionate about, making sure that we've got people from across the whole different range of backgrounds that are getting involved in politics. But coming back to the female aspect of it, we wonder why females don't then sort of like put their head above the parapet. And when we see some of the toxic and appalling abuse that they get, well, that is unacceptable. And we need to do more to clamp down on that and actually make sure that people are actually, you know, make sure there's some actions that come from, you know, really dangerous things. I'm not just talking about putting a few sort of like, you know, tweets out there and things like that. There's some really proper toxic stuff, and we just need to make sure that we're protecting all our elected politicians from that kind of thing. Don't get me wrong, people have got to be challenged, because there has to be the challenge, but we've got to do it in the right the right way.
So maybe like making an example out of people for doing slightly more minor things, not you know, tweets and things, but stalking and things like that.
It's that kind of you know, those are the kinds of the things that we really need to sort of like get a grip of, you know, that physical abuse, and you know, it's unacceptable.
You mentioned, you know, trying to get people from all backgrounds, and that's kind of why we started this podcast. We wanted to show that Conservatives are modern and fresh and have different stories, do different types of jobs and things like that. From Wigan, you're from that area. How can you kind of inspire more people from your area to get more involved in politics? Is it seeing people at the top? Is it more grassroots? What do you think?
But for me, you know, surprisingly, there's not a lot of elected Conservatives in the Wigan borough, you know, so and for me it's all about, those are the beliefs that I've always had. So for me it was really important. It was easy for me to join the Labour Party, and if I just wanted a career in politics, that would have been the path of least resistance. Dead easy for me to do, but I chose a slightly different route because I actually had those conservative beliefs and I believed in that. I wanted to get involved in local politics, and then sort of like, and from that I went on, you know, a bit of a journey and got involved in different aspects of the Conservative Party. And it's been fantastic for me because I've met so many different people from a whole host of different walks of life and different backgrounds. And if I hadn't done that, I perhaps wouldn't have done that and met a load of load of different people, like your good self.
Yeah.
But for me, that's what it's all about. And so, from my perspective, it's about demonstrating that actually, Conservatives are normal people. They're not a sort of like a different breed or something like that. We've got two arms, two legs, all that kind of stuff. But it's about your beliefs, and for me, that's really what is important. And so, if I can demonstrate to people that you can get involved and you can do different things, that for me would be rewarding itself.
Yeah. Because obviously you're coming from sort of a Labour dominated area, and you do have conservative views and values. Was that instilled by maybe family, or did you just come up with say, hey, no, I'm not sure I agree with that, and then just form your own opinions, or was it a combination?
A big combination. So obviously my family were conservative. We had our own small shop and stuff like that, which I sort of like grew up in for the first few years of my life and things like that. So so there was an element of that in there, but that in itself doesn't translate into party politics. And what I found, living in Wigan, although it's Labour, very much has got a traditional Labour voting pattern, a lot of people conservative with a small c.
Yes.
So actually, your beliefs and your values, that if you sort of like said to people, well, I believe in that, and that, they would go, oh yeah, I believe in that. Oh, well, that's conservative. Oh, well, I'm Labour. I've always been Labour. But and that's for me, the Labour Party have conned the British people for years and years and years into thinking that there's something that they're not. And coming back to the earlier question about, are the Conservatives really the party of the working class? Yes, they are. And the small c Conservatives, they want to live their own lives, they want to get on with life in their own way and have as much money in their own pocket to decide how they want to spend it. That's Conservative views, not the Labour Party view. I'll decide how to spend your money. So when you talk to people in Wigan, the Conservative with a small c, but because they've had that traditional pattern of being Labour and it's been passed down the family, that's why they think the Labour Party is for them. But I actually think that is changing as well.
Well, it's kind of a bit like having a football team, isn't it? It's kind of like, well, my family are Arsenal, I'm Arsenal. And it's kind of the Labour Party.
There is a bit of that. That's passed on. It's inherited as well. Sometimes.
But I guess like 2019 shook that up. And,
well, if you go back actually to 2016 in terms of the referendum coming out of the EU, because that's another prime example, because for years and years and years there was a whole host of people across those sort of like, they were then dubbed the Red Wall, who actually didn't want to be run by Europe, that actually wanted a change, and actually giving them saying that referendum allowed them to actually have their voice. And who was it predominantly that was on the side of the EU and the institution? It was most Labour MPs. We had one or two exceptions, and the only reason referendums can work is when you have cross-party support. But generally speaking, all the MPs in Wigan, Makerfield, and Lee, as it then was, all wanted to be in the E, all wanted to stay in the E, all campaigned for it. And even when they got elected on that general election in 2017, they did their utmost to overturn that result. So they hadn't learned one iota at all. And that's why they got an absolute battering in the 2019 general election. Yes, it was Corbyn. Yes, it was Boris. But it was also because the Labour Party had become so arrogant and out of touch with their own voters that they couldn't see what was happening. And if they'd been smart enough and they'd spend more times in pubs and talking to people in their own constituency, they would have realised the way that referendum was going in 2016. They miscalculated it because they're arrogant and out of touch.
Absolutely. That's so true. And I think that was the deciding factor for a lot of people in 2019. It's like, I knew what I was voting for, and I think they tried to patronise people a little bit. Which you were lied to, you didn't know what you were voting for.
Yeah, that's right.
And people hate that. People hate being told that they don't know their own mind, because they do.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're all adults. They're all 18. They can make their own choices.
Exactly. So true. So true.
But going into like pubs and things, obviously, I feel people say sometimes that Conservatives have this kind of coming out story, right? They're a bit shy, or they might come from a background or an environment that they don't feel like they can say that they're Conservative, or they're kind of a unicorn. And do you think that we as Conservatives need to be going into our communities more and saying proudly we are Conservatives and showing people the way, not kind of in that way.
Right,
But
no,
do you know what I mean?
no, we do traditionally have had a problem with that because there's a lot of shy conservatives out there.
Yeah.
And again, the reason for that is because if you're on the left and you're part of that leftist movement, you're all right. You get a free pass.
Yeah.
You look at all the media stuff that's
Yeah.
out there. It's all left-wing bias.
Yeah.
It's all there, isn't it? So if you fit into that norm, then that's it. And if you're sat at home watching all that, or you're looking at social media in those echo chambers that all the lefties have, well, yeah, you're all going to go, oh, well, yeah, there's no one like me out there. Well, actually, there are. And the more people that actually go out and sort of like proclaim that I am a conservative, this is why I'm a conservative, it gives other people sort of like that faith and that belief that actually we're not on our own. Actually, there's more of us than we thought.
Yeah.
Look, you know, look at all these numbers, you know.
Yeah.
So I think there's an element to that as well. And that's one of the reasons why I want this job and I love this job, because it gives me an opportunity to express those opinions and those beliefs that people can go, oh, right, okay, yeah, there are a few more right there. Let's get on board. Come on, let's do it. Yeah.
So what can we do, I guess, to nurture that and to sort of just make that more just generally more around the UK? Because at the moment I feel like it's very London centric a lot of the time. We have a lot of conservative supporters kind of helping us, but in other areas they sort of have to bring people in to help them because they maybe don't have as many. How can we make that sort of more locally for people?
I think it's all about sort of like having regional people, regional champions out there, if you like, to demonstrate that we're not all that. The world doesn't revolve, and not even the UK revolves around London. So that we've got, and we're attracting people from coming back to the background issue as well. And this is where the regional bits come in, and the regional voices and the regional experience. And the more we can help to sort of like reassure people and support them as they come forward as part of this conservative journey, then actually that will in itself build a momentum. So if you can support those people who are out there to give them the sort of like confidence, if you like, to come forward, that actually then we are growing that momentum and we are sort of like moving forward. So I think for me, it's all about the Conservative Party helping support people in those regions to, you know, to be out there, to be confident. And, you know, we shouldn't be, you know, apologising all the time about being a conservative. I'm sorry, I'm a conservative. No, great to be a conservative. And you know what? This is why I'm a conservative. So we just need to be a bit sort of like stronger and braver. You know?
Absolutely.
Keep the faith.
Absolutely.
What's next for you? Obviously, you're very busy at the moment, but any plans in the future? Or politically, I'm just really enjoying my time on the board of the party in this role. I'm probably going to stand as vice president in the conventional elections coming up. If I'm lucky enough to be elected, that would be my final sort of like year as that. But you know, I'm always here to help advise and support whoever comes after me as well, whether that be parliamentary candidates, people on the board, people in areas, regions, because ultimately working together gets us where we need to be, and also encouraging other people to come forward from all backgrounds, and you know, men, women, whoever, it doesn't matter, faith, creed, colour, whatever it is. Let's be proud to be conservatives, and I'm here to support those people on that journey as well.
Thank you so much, Michael. Honestly, it was so great to chat with you and speak with you. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Had a blast.
You're so passionate. I really love it.
I hope everyone's feeling riled up now and ready to go out and
ready to go. Well, thank you so much. Thank you once again, Michael. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget Mondays, middays, ModCons. Bye, guys.
Bye.